The train is a cattle car, a boxcar of splintered wood and frozen iron that smells of animal sweat, human fear, and the sharp, acidic reek of carbolic disinfectant that someone threw across the floor in a futile gesture against typhus. You are 9 years old. Your mother's arms are locked around you like a human cage, her fingers bony and white-knuckled, her breath coming in short, visible gasps in the February air, -30 degrees outside, the cold so absolute it has turned the steel rails to brittle glass, and killed 3 people in the car behind you overnight. You don't know where your father is. He was taken 2 months ago, in the middle of the night, by men in leather coats who spoke in the clipped bureaucratic tones of men filling out forms. Enemy of the people, they said. Your mother screamed. You watched from the crack in the bedroom door, your bare feet frozen to the wooden floorboards. Now you are on a train heading east, into the infinite white, and the other passengers are a gallery of the doomed. Kulak's clutching icons wrapped in rags, former party officials with their spectacles smashed, an old woman who sings Ukrainian laments until a guard bangs on the slats and tells her to shut up or he'll shoot her. The train stops at a siding in the middle of nowhere. The doors slide open, and the light is blinding, and the cold is a physical blow that steals your breath. A man in a fur hat and a greatcoat shouts, "Everyone out, welcome to your new home." The taiga stretches in every direction, a black and white photograph of oblivion. This is the Gulag distribution point, this is the Soviet Union, this is level 11. The Kulak San. Your new home is a barrack, a long low building of unseasoned pine that leaks heat through every gap in the planking. The floor is packed earth, frozen solid, and you sleep on a plank bed, 3 tiers high, wrapped in a coat that still holds the ghost smell of your father's tobacco. The camp is called Sevlag 47, one of hundreds in the Gulag archipelago, a sprawling archipelago not of islands but of frozen hells connected by railway lines in the slow, bureaucratic machinery of Stalin's terror. Your mother is assigned to the logging brigade. She leaves before dawn, wrapped in every scrap of fabric she owns, and returns after dark, her hands bleeding through her mittens, her cough already deepening into something wet and ominous. You are assigned to the children's work detail, gathering firewood, hauling water from the frozen river, sorting through the garbage heap behind the commandant's quarters for anything edible, potato peels, fish bones, the moldy crusts of black bread. You learn to fight for these scraps with a ferocity that surprises you. The hunger is a constant companion, a dull, gnawing presence that hollows out your stomach and fills your dreams with impossible feasts. You dream of bread, hot and white, and impossibly soft. You haven't tasted white bread since you were 6. The camp ration is 400 grams of black bread per day for workers, 300 for dependents, a dense, sour, gray-brown brick that contains more sawdust than flour. You eat it slowly, crumb by crumb, making it last. You learn that hunger is not just a physical sensation but a psychological state, a narrowing of the world down to the single obsessive question of when you will eat next. Your mother dies in your second winter, typhus. She burns with fever for 3 days, her eyes glassy and unseeing, her lips cracked and bleeding, her delirious mutterings a stream of names you don't recognize, her village, her parents, your father. On the 4th morning she is cold. The camp guards drag her body to the morgue, a shed behind the hospital barracks, where the corpses are stacked like firewood until the spring thaw allows for burial in the mass graves beyond the perimeter wire. You don't cry, you've forgotten how. You stand in the snow, watching the sled with her body disappear into the gray light, and you make a decision. You will survive. You don't know why. You don't know what for. But you will not die in this frozen hell. You will not be a number in the camp ledger, a notation in the NKVD archives. You will climb. Level 2, the orphan laborer. The state orphanage is in a provincial city called Kirov, a dreary industrial town of soot-stained brick and smokestacks that pump yellow-gray pollution into a permanently overcast sky. You are transferred here at age 12 after the camp commandant, in a rare bureaucratic anomaly, signed a release order for orphaned minors of rehabilitated parents. Your mother's death, it seems, triggered some obscure clause in the penal code. You are free, technically, though freedom in the Soviet Union is a relative term. The orphanage is a converted merchant's house, grand in a faded, decaying way, with a ballroom that has been partitioned into dormitories, and a kitchen that serves thin cabbage soup 3 times a day. The soup is better than the camp. The soup is a revelation. At 14, you are apprenticed to a machinist at the Kirov tractor factory, a vast, clangorous cathedral of Soviet industry. The factory floor is a half-kilometer of grinding, roaring, spark-spitting machinery, the air thick with the smell of hot metal, cutting oil, and the acrid tang of welding fumes. Your job is to sweep the metal shavings from beneath the lathes, a task that leaves your hands permanently cross-hatched with tiny glinting scars. The foreman is a man named Pavel Ivanovich, a barrel-chested veteran of the Great Patriotic War who lost 2 fingers at Stalingrad and drinks vodka from a flask he keeps in his toolbox. He teaches you to read blueprints, to operate a lathe, to respect the machine because the machine doesn't care about your ideology. The party comes and goes, he mutters, when no one else is listening. The 5-year plan is bullshit, but a well-turned bolt, that's real. You don't understand what he means, but you remember the words. They will echo for decades. You join the Komsomol, the Communist Youth League, at 16. It's not a choice, it's a survival mechanism. The Komsomol card opens doors. Better jobs, educational opportunities, a path out of the orphanage and into the lower rungs of the Soviet middle class. You attend meetings in a drafty hall decorated with portraits of Lenin and Stalin. The young Stalin with his thick hair and fierce Georgian eyes. The older Lenin with his goatee and his hand outstretched toward a future that never arrived. You learn the slogans. You chant them with the others. Lenin lived, Lenin lives, Lenin will live forever. You don't believe it, not really, but you've learned that belief is optional. Performance is mandatory. You become a very good performer. Level 3, the factory party member. At 22, you are a full member of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union. Your party card is a small, red booklet with a black and white photograph that makes you look older and more serious than you feel. The card is your passport, your identity, your shield. You carry it in your breast pocket, close to your heart, and you learn to present it with the smooth, practiced motion of a man who has nothing to hide. You have plenty to hide, of course. Everyone does. The Soviet Union is a nation of secrets, and the greatest secret is that everyone is pretending. You've risen from sweeping floors to operating a lathe to junior foreman, a position that comes with a modest salary of 120 rubles a month, a room in a communal apartment, and the grudging respect of the men you supervise. The communal apartment, the kommunalka, is a nightmare of proximity. 6 families sharing a single kitchen, a single toilet, a single telephone in the hallway that rings at all hours. The kitchen is a battlefield of simmering resentments, each family's hot plate a sovereign territory, each pot of boiling cabbage a declaration of existence. Your neighbors include a retired schoolteacher who reports everyone to the housing committee, a Jewish violinist who practices at 2 a.m., and a war widow with 3 children who stares at you with eyes that have seen things you cannot imagine. You learn to navigate this microcosm, to trade favors and information, to be agreeable without being trusting. The kommunalka teaches you the essential Soviet skill, keeping your head down while keeping your ears open. You meet Elena at a factory dance, a New Year's celebration organized by the party committee. She is a clerk in the factory's accounting department, a quiet woman with dark hair pulled back in a severe bun that doesn't quite hide the softness of her face. She laughs at your jokes, which are not very good, and you dance to a scratchy recording of a wartime waltz, and, for the first time since your mother died, you feel something other than the survival instinct. You marry her 6 months later. A civil ceremony at the Zag's office, the state registry, followed by a small reception in the factory canteen, with cheap champagne and pickled tomatoes. The factory director gives a toast to the new Soviet family, the basic unit of socialist society. You drink, you kiss your wife, you allow yourself, for one reckless evening, to be happy. Level 4, the Stakhanovite. The factory director notices you. You've been exceeding your production quotas, not through heroic effort, but through a simple innovation you developed on the night shift, reorganizing the workflow around the lathes to reduce idle time. You wrote a report, submitted it through the proper channels, and the report caught the eye of the Regional Economic Council. You are invited to Moscow for a conference of advanced production workers, a gathering of the new Stakhanovites, the shock workers who embody the Soviet ideal of heroic labor. You stay in the Hotel Moskva, a massive Stalinist wedding cake of a building, your room furnished with a radio, a telephone, and a view of the Kremlin towers. You eat in the hotel restaurant, where the menu includes sturgeon and black bread and Georgian wine, and you feel like an imposter, a peasant who has sneaked into the Tsar's palace. You meet Alexei Stakhanov himself, the legendary miner who allegedly hewed 102 tons of coal in a single shift, a record that made him the face of the Soviet labor movement. He is a large, awkward man, visibly uncomfortable with his own mythology, and he drinks too much at the banquet and tells you, in a slurred whisper, that the record was a setup. The entire shift worked to clear the coal, but he got the credit. "Don't tell anyone," he says, gripping your arm. "They'd shoot me. You don't tell anyone." You understand now. The Soviet Union is a stage, and everyone is acting, and the penalty for breaking character is death or worse. Your innovation is implemented across 3 factories in the region. You are featured in Pravda, the party newspaper, under the headline, Ingenuity of the Masses. Your photograph appears next to the article. A young man in a worker's cap, squinting into the camera, looking appropriately heroic. You are awarded the Order of the Red Banner of Labor, a medal that pins onto your jacket and glints with official validation. Your salary increases to 200 rubles a month. You and Elena are allocated a room in a slightly less crowded kommunalka, with a window that faces a courtyard instead of a brick wall. You have a son named Dmitri, a squalling red-faced creature, who grips your finger with astonishing strength and fills your chest with a terror you haven't felt since the cattle car. You love him. The love is a vulnerability, a crack in the armor of survival, and you guard it fiercely. Level 5. The party Apparatchik. The war changes everything. The Great Patriotic War, as the propaganda calls it, though you remember the Molotov-Ribbentrop Pact and the invasion of Poland in the brief, shameful period when the Soviet Union was allied with the Nazis. You don't speak of that. No one does. You are conscripted into a factory militia unit, given a rifle that predates the revolution, and assigned to dig anti-tank ditches on the outskirts of Moscow as the Wehrmacht pushes toward the capital. The winter of 1941 is a horror. Temperatures of -40, frostbite claiming fingers and toes, the bodies of frozen German soldiers stacked like cordwood, the sky black with the smoke of burning villages. You survive because you are transferred back to the factory, now converted to tank production, your machinist skills too valuable to waste in a trench. You work 16-hour shifts, T-34 tanks rolling off the line with the paint still wet, driven straight to the front by crews who paint, for Stalin, on the turrets and die 3 days later. The war ends in 1945. You are 32 years old, a veteran of the home front, your medal collection now including the Medal for Valiant Labor in the Great Patriotic War and the Order of Lenin, the highest civilian decoration, awarded for your role in exceeding tank production quotas by 300%. You are promoted to chief engineer of the factory, a position that comes with a private office, a telephone that connects directly to the regional party headquarters, and a sense that you have crossed an invisible line. You are no longer a worker, you are a manager, a cog in the apparatus, a member of the nomenklatura, the party elite. The privileges begin. A car, a black Pobeda sedan with a driver named Sergei, who smells of tobacco and never speaks unless spoken to. A larger apartment, 2 rooms, with a private kitchen and a bathroom you don't have to share. Access to the closed distribution system, the special stores where party members can buy imported goods, Finnish butter, German sausage, French wine, that ordinary citizens never see. Elena is pregnant again, and the pregnancy is monitored by a doctor at the Kremlin clinic, a facility with clean sheets and functioning equipment and nurses who smile. Your son Dmitri attends a special school for the children of the nomenklatura, where he learns English and chess and the official history of the party. You are rising. The view from here is intoxicating, but the view also includes the gulags, which you know still exist because you've seen the transport lists. It includes the purges, which you've witnessed from a careful distance. A colleague in the factory administration who made an ill-advised joke about Comrade Stalin, who was arrested one Tuesday and never seen again. It includes the fear, which never leaves, which has simply changed its shape. At the bottom, you feared starvation. At the top, you fear the knock on the door. The fear is the same substance, only refined. Level 6. The Stalin Prize Laureate. In 1950, you are summoned to the Kremlin, not metaphorically. A black ZIL limousine picks you up from your apartment at 6 a.m., and you are driven through the Borovitsky Gate, past the Tsar Bell and the Tsar Cannon, into the citadel of Soviet power. The corridors are endless, lined with red carpet and gold-framed portraits, the air smelling of floor polish and old cigarette smoke and something else, something you recognize as the scent of absolute power. You are escorted to a conference room where a committee of generals and party officials interrogates you about tank production methodologies for 2 hours. You answer carefully, precisely, revealing nothing that could be used against you, displaying exactly the right mixture of competence and humility. At the end, a thin man in civilian clothes, who has said nothing throughout the meeting, stands up and announces, "The state wishes to recognize your contributions. You are awarded the Stalin Prize, First Class for outstanding achievements in the field of heavy industry. The prize comes with 100,000 rubles, a sum so vast you cannot quite process it." The ceremony is in the Kremlin St. George's Hall, a cathedral of white marble and gold chandeliers, and you stand on a stage before the entire Politburo, and a man whose face you've seen on every wall, in every building, in every city in the nation pins the medal to your chest. His fingers are cold, his eyes are yellow like a hawk's. You bow, you thank Comrade Stalin, the party, the Soviet people. You do not say what you are thinking, that this is a bribe, a leash, a golden chain. You take the medal, you take the money. You go home to Elena and you don't sleep for 3 nights. The factory is renamed after you. The Your Name Heavy Machinery Plant. You drive past the sign every morning, and the letters of your name, painted in gold on a red background, feel like an accusation. You are now a public figure, a role model, a symbol. You give speeches to factory workers, speeches written by a party propagandist, full of slogans and statistics, and the mandatory denunciations of Western imperialism. You attend banquets where you toast Comrade Stalin's health with Georgian wine that tastes like ashes. You are photographed with visiting delegations from the fraternal socialist nations. Bulgarians, East Germans, Chinese. You smile in every photograph. Your jaw aches from smiling. Elena dies in 1952. Cancer of the stomach, diagnosed too late, treated in a special hospital that couldn't save her. You sit by her bed for the last week, holding her hand, watching the light drain from her eyes. She is conscious at the end, and she looks at you with an expression you cannot decode. Love, maybe, or resentment, or simply exhaustion. Take care of Dmitri, she whispers. Don't let them take him. You promise. You mean it. You don't know yet that you will break this promise. Level 7. The De-Stalinization Survivor. Stalin dies in March 1953. The news hits the Soviet Union like a physical shockwave. You hear it on the radio, the somber voice of the announcer, the dirge music, the official grief that is both genuine and performative. You attend the lying-in state in the Hall of Columns, filing past the coffin with the rest of the nomenclatura, the body of the Generalissimo waxy and unreal, the smell of formaldehyde barely masked by flowers. The crowd outside, 1 million people, surges toward the center of Moscow, and hundreds are trampled to death in the crush, a detail that is never reported in Pravda. You file past the coffin, cross yourself involuntarily. A gesture from your childhood, from your mother, from a world before, and you wonder, with a cold, clinical detachment, whether the terror died with him. It didn't. The terror changes shape, as it always does. Khrushchev's secret speech in 1956, the denunciation of Stalin's cult of personality, lands like a bomb in the party apparatus. Suddenly, the gulags are an embarrassment, the purge is a crime, the excess is a deviation. You are instructed to remove Stalin's portrait from the factory entrance, to revise the history displays, to edit the speeches. The same party officials who sent men to the camps are now condemning the camps, their faces arranged in expressions of righteous indignation. You are not surprised. You are incapable of surprise anymore. You rewrite the factory's official history, downplaying Stalin's role, emphasizing the collective leadership, the wisdom of the party, the continuity of Leninism. The words are a paste that fills the cracks. Your son Dmitri, now 18, is a problem. He has been reading samizdat, the underground literature that circulates in typescript and carbon copy, the forbidden texts of Solzhenitsyn and Pasternak, and the others who dare to speak the truth. He comes to you one night, his eyes burning with the fierce, unforgiving righteousness of youth, and asks if you knew about the camps. You look at your son, this boy you love with the desperation that has survived Elena's death and Stalin's death, and the slow, grinding erosion of your soul, and you lie. I didn't know, you say. I was a factory worker. I didn't know. Dmitri stares at you for a long moment, and you see in his eyes the death of his respect for you. He walks out. He doesn't speak to you for a year. When he does speak again, it's to tell you he's leaving Moscow, moving to Leningrad, studying to be a physicist. He doesn't invite you to his wedding. Level 8. The Brezhnevite Apparatchik. The years become a blur of 5-year plans and party congresses and the slow, grinding stagnation of the Brezhnev era. You are promoted to the Ministry of Heavy Industry, a deputy minister, a position that comes with a dacha in the countryside, a ZIL limousine with curtains in the rear window, and a permanent low-grade terror that has become so familiar it feels like a personality trait. The dacha is in Perestroika, the writer's colony, surrounded by the summer homes of the literary elite. Your neighbors include poets and novelists, many of whom are informants, all of whom are compromised. You drink tea on your porch, watching the birch trees sway in the wind, and you feel nothing. The numbness is complete. The corruption is systemic. You approve contracts for factory construction that are inflated by 30%. The excess funneled into party accounts that fund the lifestyles of the elite. You attend a banquet where the centerpiece is a roasted sturgeon the size of a small child. served on a silver platter, while the nation waits in bread lines for black bread and cabbage. You eat the sturgeon, it's delicious, you drink the wine. You toast Comrade Brezhnev, a man whose speeches are so slurred by the tranquilizers he takes for his heart condition that they've become a national joke. You don't laugh at the jokes. You've forgotten how to laugh at anything. You remarry a woman named Irina, the widow of a deceased party official, a practical arrangement that provides companionship and consolidates two bureaucratic networks. She is kind, in a distant way, and you are grateful for the warmth of another body in the bed. But you don't love her, not the way you loved Elena, and she doesn't love you, and the arrangement is a quiet mutual acknowledgement that you are both too old and too tired for passion. You grow tomatoes in the dacha garden. You read the approved newspapers. You take your medications. You wait for death, which seems to be taking its time. Level 9. The Perestroika witness Gorbachev comes to power in 1985, and the Soviet Union begins to unravel. You watch it happen from your office in the ministry, a corner room with a view of the Moscow River, the windows double glazed against the cold and the noise. The reforms come in waves. Glasnost, openness, the newspapers suddenly filled with articles that would have been unthinkable 5 years ago. Critiques of Lenin, exposures of Stalin's crimes, debates about the very foundations of Marxism-Leninism. Perestroika, restructuring, the economy flailing between plan and market, the factories you helped build suddenly obsolete, the workers unpaid, the supply chains collapsing into chaos. You are 72 years old. You have outlived Stalin, Khrushchev, Brezhnev, Andropov, Chernenko. You have survived the Great Terror, the Great Patriotic War, the purges, the famines, the endless, grinding, absurd, bureaucratic nightmare of the Soviet experiment. And now you watch as the experiment collapses under its own weight, the whole vast edifice cracking like the ice on the Moscow River in spring. The Berlin Wall falls, and you watch on television the flickering images of Germans dancing on concrete, and you feel something you haven't felt in decades, a sense of history moving. You don't know whether to weep or cheer. You do neither. You pour a glass of vodka, raise it to the television, and drink alone in your dacha, the birch trees silent witnesses. The Soviet Union dissolves in December 1991. The red flag is lowered over the Kremlin for the last time. You are not there to see it. You are in your apartment, packing boxes, preparing for the transition to whatever comes next. A knock on the door. For a moment, your heart stops, the old reflex, the terror that never really died. But it's just a courier delivering your pension documents from the new Russian Federation. Your pension is 3,000 rubles a month, which, in the hyperinflation of the 1990s, is worth approximately nothing. The medals, the Stalin Prize, the Order of Lenin, are historical curiosities now, tokens of a dead empire. You put them in a box. You close the lid. You sit in your chair by the window and watch the snow fall on Moscow, white and silent and eternal. Level 10. The Pensioner. The 1990s are a nightmare of poverty and nostalgia. Your savings, accumulated over a lifetime of party service, are wiped out by inflation. Your dacha is sold to a new Russian, a young man in a tracksuit who made a fortune in the aluminum wars and pays in cash from a briefcase. You live in a one-room apartment in a Khrushchev-era concrete block on the outskirts of Moscow, the elevator always broken, the stairwell smelling of urine and boiled cabbage. You stand in line for bread, just like you did as a child, and the irony is not lost on you. You are 80 years old, and you are back where you started, hungry, cold, invisible. Dmitri visits you once. He is 50 now, a physicist at a research institute that hasn't paid him in 6 months. He has a son of his own, a grandson you've never met. The conversation is stilted, full of gaps and silences and the weight of things unsaid. I read about the camps, he says, finally. The ones you said you didn't know about. The ones you were part of. You don't answer. There is no answer. He leaves, and you watch him walk down the stairwell, his back straight, his hair gray, a stranger who shares your blood. You don't cry. You haven't cried since you were 9 years old, standing in the snow, watching your mother's body disappear. You die in 2003, at the age of 89, in your sleep, in the one-room apartment. A neighbor finds you 3 days later, the television's still on, broadcasting a reality show about rich Muscovites buying luxury apartments. Your body is cremated at state expense. There is no funeral, no obituary, no memorial. Your medals are sold at a flea market by the landlord's son, bought by a German tourist for 20 euros. Your name, the name that was on the factory, the name that was in Pravda, the name that was whispered in the corridors of power, is forgotten. The Soviet Union is a memory, and you are a memory within a memory, and both are fading.